Hey, what up, fam? I was really surprised actually with this for Hell Warden Higuma because the level of abruptness of that came with this chapter. Like, I mean, let me kind of get to the chapter and then see what I'm talking about. So it also where we left off in the last two chapters, there was a whole discussion with what was this guy's name, Engetsu, and he's like talking about how the Demon Fox was really kind of like someone that they wanted to use to measure Higuma's power, see how strong he was, and see where he was at. But it wasn't enough to where they were able to get, what they wanted out. It was more of something useful. And meanwhile, in the back, they're talking about like reviving, who they called the old man. So I'm guessing, some leader of the fugitive spirit, some big guy who they're trying to break out. Maybe some guy who's been sentenced to hell for thousands of years or something. But at the end of it, we saw this guy who was like seemingly crying, and they're like right before that a little silhouette in Higuma's past, as well as some future spirit who got like half of his body melted. So I thought it was actually like at first I thought it was fire, like melting stone or something, and then I realized it didn't look like heat signs, and it was kind of weird because that Engetsu guy seems like he's a fiery person. So I just thought it would be odd to introduce two different ones at the same time that don't seem really related. And then I thought it was acid, but it was revealed in this chapter, which I think was even more surprising, which I'll get to in a moment. But it starts out with some of that moment in that where Kumaguma was thinking about when he was a kid, and you get a fair amount of information about his past. Like you see like who his dad was, and he never met his mom. I guess his mom died when he was very little. Um, and instead it's like his aunt. And I mean, I could really get to this one. I think is a pretty short explanatory chapter because most of it was just like Higuma talking to Ayaha about his past and in small bits. But obviously there was a little bit of awkwardness when he talked about the people in the picture. His father and his aunt both died on the same night 6 years prior. And while they're just kind of going and talking, just having a nice side by side conversation, this guy pops up. This dude, geez, Aga Gane. It was so abrupt. Like I figured it would be like him working towards it, and maybe he's like talks to him, and then looms out of the darkness or something. But he's really just kind of stands there on the side of a walkway, and they just kind of like come across him. And I guess like his whole thing is he waits until a Hell Warden has a child, and once they reach 10, he goes to kill the older ones. And given what they've said that he's killed every other Hell Warden before Higuma, that he wants to keep the cycle going, so he always has someone to fight. I'm guessing. Very interesting, and it's the fact that instead of what I thought was acid was molten copper, which like I was that alone kind of really surprised me. Like I didn't figure anyone was gonna pull out a power like that, and I always really like weird powers that are easy to understand, but you just don't expect them. I think the same thing with like was in Black Clover Nozzle's magic was you'd think it was like some form of like steel or something, but it's mercury, and then obviously given that extra aspect of it made it more interesting. But this one I was really shocked because when he throws it out, he actually burns off one of Higuma's arms. So I'm wondering what that's going to mean for the future. Because we know that when he's in that Hell Warden form, it's different taking damage. But this is in his base form. So is he going to exist with one arm for the rest of the series? I mean, it's kind of weird because you wouldn't expect it this early on. You wouldn't expect him to lose a limb, like at what is this chapter 12, and it stick. But the thing that kind of makes me wonder if it will is the fact with all his Zaishu, he's able to pretty much operate without them anyway. So even if he only has one arm, he's got all these other smaller hands that are going to be able to do stuff for him that he's going to be able to manipulate and control. But at the same time, it's just it's going to be so surprising if he does in fact keep the arm off, and I'm wondering how that's going to go. I don't think for a second he's going to beat this guy right here because just the way that they're hyping him up and how big and important he is, and how he's apparently the strongest. So they said the highest ranking fugitive spirit they've seen. So I'm wondering if that's just Higuma and Roku and all these guys, or if it's the Hell Wardens in general, like the highest level one that they've encountered during their whole hunt down of all the escaped fugitive spirits. I would prefer it to be just maybe in the Japanese branch, because if this guy, if he's already big deal top dog, I mean, it'd be kind of cool to see him further progressed, but it would be weird to see like near the end goal kind of guys already. I don't know. I mean, I doubt it's gonna really matter because there's no way Higuma's gonna take him out here and now. I mean, he already casually just cut off this dude's arm, and he's apparently so powerful. He killed he's killed all these other Hell Wardens, but he killed Higuma's aunt and father like in the same night. So he's definitely extremely powerful. This guy's just interesting to look at though. Like the molten copper, I think really sets up a creepy precedent for him. And I'm wondering if I feel like he's kind of like um, Grand Fisher for Bleach. He has that similar kind of spot, as well as he's the main character is now going to be fighting somebody way out of his league this early on, and it's just such a it's such a out like curveball out of nowhere that I really interested to see where this goes, because I don't think Higuma's going to win here. I think somebody's going to have to show up, because you saw people at the start of the chapter that he is associates with part of the family on the off branches, but it's definitely weird to see this guy pop up like so early on if he's of such value, and I'm hoping this has a larger scale goal in mind, and not just have him show up and beat up on Higuma and that, and then leave or decide to come back later, because he definitely looks like he wants to test him. But I'm wondering, like, given the idea that I think is part of his character, that he waits for them to have offspring so he can continue the cycle and always have Hell Wardens to fight. So I don't think he would kill him here and now, but I think he definitely wants to fight him and test him, and just see what he's going against. Now, there's always the worry that bringing in a big character like this pretty early on, that it's trying to stir up more attention, because he wants to get more people for it. Otherwise, it could get axed. But that was in the old Shonen Jump, and which was a lot more understandable because you could only fit so many series within the magazine. But now that it's all digital, like you're not losing space by having the chapter up, unless you're somehow making less money on it than you're paying the people for doing it. Then it shouldn't be a problem. But other than that, like that's just the new system of how they're going to go about whether or not a series is profitable or not. We'll definitely see with hopefully within the next couple months. Obviously, it should be a whole new kind of criteria now that they're all digital. But I don't know. So just leave a comment below about this. Like it was a pretty nice setup for the most part for the early parts of the chapter. You find out a little bit of backstory on him, and then you got this out of nowhere curveball, this big freaking avalanche of big bad guy out of nowhere, and it just takes Higuma's arm. Definitely interested in the next chapter. Like it definitely built up. Like this chapter, like I said, it was nice. It was pretty comfortable, and then you just got a out of nowhere psychopathic super fugitive spirit from hell set in still almost 1,000 years. So we'll see that up in the within next week. Definitely looking forward to that. Definitely looking forward to next week. I mean that and Jujutsu Kaisen both set up really interesting parts for the next chapter. So next week on both of these, definitely stoked to see how they go. Other than that, drop a comment below on what you thought about this. What you think about this guy's design and the fact that he's full of molten copper. That was such a weird trait to give him, but I really like it. And I really appreciate if you would thumbs up the video, befriend the like button and the subscribe button, and check out my other videos. And I really appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.